Hi guys, good evening. How are we? God, my God. I'm afraid it's just me. Nadia couldn't stomach it. Nanny Di was in floods of tears. We're talking about Help, which is the Channel 4 drama starring Jodie Comer and Stephen Graham. And I think if you've just watched it, I think, was it MasterChef Finals or something tonight? If you haven't watched it and you watch the MasterChef Finals, if you can stomach it, I would suggest that it's probably, I hate to use the phrase an important watch, but I think it's an important watch. But you got a masterclass from probably two of our greatest actors in the country, basically, Jodie Comer and Stephen Graham. Remarkable, what a remarkable drama. And if you haven't seen it or you're not entirely sure what it's essentially about the arrival of the COVID pandemic from the perspective of a care home, for which Jodie Comer has managed to get herself a job. Ian Hart, the actor, runs it. And Stephen Graham is one of the patients there who has early onset Alzheimer's. And as Clodagh Egan says, as Rona Morrison says, I mean, you can't even, neither of the actors, none of the actors in that were acting. It was a sensational and searing portrait of a part of our community and society that we kept hearing about, and I'm sure many of you had people or relatives who were in these homes, but I thought it was a really needed close-up portrait of what it was like inside a care home as the crisis took hold, and the way in which we essentially cut them adrift and allowed old people to die. I think it's no more complex than that. I mean, Jodie Comer, my God. You know, given a sort of added kind of emphasis and meaning, given the fact that everyone was essentially from the same neck of the woods. You know, Sue Johnston was in there, Angela Griffin was in there, obviously Stephen Graham and Ian Hart. You know, so a sense of community, a sense of togetherness. I mean, there were moments, I don't know if you saw it, there were moments inside the care home as the crisis was kicking in and members of the, residents in the care home were essentially dying, where I was just reminded of what we actually all, well, we didn't all go through, but what sectors of our society went through. I mean, and that's where drama is so good, because you can't just drop people into that environment and experience it for real. But with drama, by interviewing, by getting first-hand testimony, which I know they did for this, talking to people who were in these care homes during the crisis, you get something so much more impactful and meaningful. Faith Goodman, if Jodie and Stephen don't win BAFTAs, then there's no justice. I mean, they've got it. I mean, beautifully played, a beautiful sort of strangely contorted buddy film, it's a 2-hour film, where they have this unlikely bond, where his degenerative Alzheimer's brain disease gets incrementally worse, and yet there's still the flickering flame of consciousness and a friendship and help. An incredibly agonizing scene, I don't know if you saw it, where she goes and wakes Stephen Graham up to help her. She walks back and forth about 18 times through the care home, trying to phone for an ambulance. I'm just talking quietly because people are asleep. Trying to phone for an ambulance, no one was available, no one was picking up. Absolutely amazing. Steph Schultz, how he switched between consciousness or, a sort of an awareness and a lack of awareness was quite remarkable. How he went from a man with an identity and purpose to a vulnerable child or a shuffling child alongside her, and then the bond that they forged, and then the heartbreak towards the end as they're being sort of yanked apart again. And you even felt for the head of the care home, didn't you, Ian Hart? You even felt that, you know, he wasn't, like she says to him, you're not a bad man. But you're just reminded of the administrative nonsense that was going on, the administrative fuck-ups and cock-ups and the lack of respect. And these people like Jodie Comer on her own trying to save lives, on her own for £8.50 an hour. Just phenomenal, just phenomenal. Ellery Jones, when I worked at the care home, I started as the cook. I would get more money, which wasn't a lot, than the carers who were training to be a carer. I knew this as I became a carer there. Completely encapsulated the care home situation, says Pauline Mulvey. In general, never mind COVID. Powerful testimonial for social care workers. Absolutely right, absolutely right. And I thought it was really good at capturing the sense of community within a care home. I mean, I remember working in one the first year I was at university, and that sense of a community and that sense of a, you know, even in there, the front doors. And there was that shot, did anyone see when someone died? I think it was Sue Johnston's character died in her room. And then they put that spray, a sort of antiseptic spray, and it was just in the middle of the room, and they just came out in that one shot. So it was a really powerful film that used sparingly stylistic ticks and motifs and camera work to really, you know, make it impactful, you know, the sense of isolation. I thought the night that Jodie Comer was running around struggling to get help, the beautiful way in which they reduced all the natural sound and they heightened the sound of her pumping the, you know, the antiseptic wipe dispenser. Did anyone notice that? And every time she pumped it, it would make you jump out of your skin. And it reminded me of those weird sounds and smells. And there was a sort of blanket of silence even outside the care homes, wasn't there? There was a blanket of silence around society. There was a blanket of silence. I remember me and Nads waking up and there was a chill, there was a pause, there was a coldness. And then, you know, you had that in that nighttime sequence of her rushing up and down. You know, you could hear in the ambulance services them making these brutal judgments of how old, what state are they in, where are you in a care home, dispensable. And here's the thing, guys, I do worry that kind of dispensability of certain people is going to still be there in the health service because it just can't cope with everyone that's coming in. I mean, you know, it's not necessarily the most brilliant thing to watch before you go to bed. I think someone just said that. I kind of agree. And then there was that incredibly chilling moment, which I'm pleased they hovered over, where, do you remember, they brought the first person from another home to the door, and they were all like, whoa, hang on a minute. You know, why aren't you wearing masks, they say to the people working in the residential care home. And then you know that as that man on that bed was taken through the door, that was it. That was the disease. That was the virus going in. And that's how undramatic it was. It was like, you know, COVID has been a sort of dramatically undramatic event because so much of it is making us just keep still and be still. But the way it comes in is just not even, there's no sort of, it just comes in someone. So I thought that sense of, it was like did anyone else get it? It felt like a horror film, and it really captured the sense of horror that we've all felt at varying times through this crisis. Dixon Summit, you've not watched it yet. Elliot Gonzalez, that was a powerful scene without over-explaining. It was a really, you're right, absolutely right, great drama where it wasn't overwritten. There were some really nice kind of improvised scenes you could see between Jodie and Stephen. I loved that scene at the end where he was talking about her being an Everton supporter. That was really nice. Lots of really natural, and those moments where relatives were looking through windows and talking, and there was the guy talking to the rather overweight guy who sadly is the one who ends up, she tries to turn over. I thought that sense of community, again, was just really, really powerful. Rhys Roberts, what did you think of it, Rhys? Rhys Roberts, the NHS 111 recording in the background was palpable, wasn't it? Debbie Parra, loved it, was so touched by it, opened my eyes up. And I think that is why it's such an important drama. It was such an important drama to take those of us who haven't had any experience of this COVID pandemic from the perspective of a care home. I would argue to anyone who wants to say this was just the flu, I would want to argue to anyone who says that PPE isn't important, look at that. You might not have had a tough time, but they were. And whilst it's not exactly the same thing as saying, you know, wearing masks on tubes and all of that, when you see something like that, it was like the bubonic plague tearing through London, or how we would imagine it to be, wasn't it? As they taped up the doors. You know, all you have to do is wear a mask. Some people don't even want to wear a mask. Don't get it. Just don't get it. The monologue at the end, Lior, absolutely so powerful. Wasn't she great? Isn't she great? Please tell me they're going to win a BAFTA. And please tell me it's going to be a BAFTA for all the care workers in the country. Linda McDermott, care staff, my God, they're still the forgotten people when they got us through this. Few months, yes, now still on shit money. Ellen, Lior's right, a statement of our culture. A statement of our culture. Marcia Toms, he was so vulnerable and she was so caring, above and beyond, like so many carers at the time. In Somerset, a care home staff stayed locked in care home throughout the lockdown to save lives. And that moment where he says he loves her. I mean, Nanny Di was sobbing on the floor. She really was sobbing on the floor. And, you know, oh. So once again, one of those dramas, really tough to watch. You can easily sit there at the front of it saying, not for me, don't fancy being taken down that route, don't fancy being taken. But through the sheer authenticity of the actors and the sensitivity of the filmmaking and the collective performance of all the supporting cast, you know, Angela Griffin, Sue Johnston, Ian Hart, all the others, Kathy Tyson, I think, was in there as well. You know, it created such a real revisit of this crisis, so, to the point that it's almost like a necessary thing to watch. It felt like a historic drama, and yet it's only like 9-10 months ago. Do you know what I mean? This is what kids and adults in years to come should watch, to get an understanding of what happened in this sector that was essentially left to fend for itself and wilt and allow old people to die. So yeah, I would recommend, if you haven't watched it because you didn't feel you could, maybe not last minute, you know, late at night, last thing before you go to bed, but do take the time, because it's a really sensational and searingly important drama. So there you go. I've whispered this review. Subscribe if you haven't, hit the like button if you've enjoyed our chat. Please keep your comments coming up down below, keep sharing about it, and keep telling people to watch it if they haven't watched it. Guys, sleep tight, see you in the morning. There's also a vlog somewhere, just landed. Bye.